All right, guys, welcome to Psych 308 Reloaded. And we are in the last week of classes. Can you guys believe it? Give yourselves a hand. Woo! We made it. We made it. In the worst of times, we made it. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're safe. Let's do this thing. We are going to end our semester talking about a very controversial and timely topic. Can you be addicted to the internet? And in what form? And does that even make sense? Something like the internet, something that we need for our work and our personal life, something that pervades our very existence and keeps us together, like in times of COVID. Where would we be without the internet? Can you become addicted to the internet? And what does that even mean? I want to shoot some statistics at you to get you thinking about this topic, because you guys know I like to contextualize our topics in some statistical information. A very recent article by Sugaya et al. 2019. This is slide number 2, by the way. Sugaya et al. 2019 gives us the following statistical information based on a review of recent studies to date. Number 1, estimated rates of internet addiction range from 0.8% to almost 12% in Western samples. Western cultural samples. That's research combined from as early as 2000, 20 years ago, all the way up through around 2012. And well over 10% in some Asian samples. There are many studies that indicate that Asian populations seem to meet the criteria for what is called internet addiction, although that's very controversial, as you will see. They have some of the highest average rates of internet addiction that's been studied cross-culturally. Some reports even indicate rates of smartphone addiction. What do you think, phone? Ain't not so smart. What do you think, phone? Smartphone addiction or social media addiction, Facebook, Instagram. Some rates indicate 30% or more people meet the criteria for internet addiction with regard specifically to smartphones and social media. These are more recent studies, 2015, 2016. Regardless of the existence of a recognized mental disorder or whatever its manifestations are, individuals are nonetheless seeking help professionally for these problems. So as you will see in today's class, internet addiction isn't quite a DSM-5 disorder. It is something that has been sort of set aside for further study, but just like sex addiction, right? People are nonetheless seeking help for it. So it's worthy of our time and attention. In some countries, believe it or not, entire psychiatric centers, clinics, are dedicated to the treatment only of gaming and internet addiction. And we are going to talk about gaming addiction in particular, because that has received a lot of attention worldwide. According to the latest survey by the Entertainment Software Association, which gathered data from more than 4,000 households in the United States, 65% of households had at least one person who played computer and video games regularly, and 29% of those players were under the age of 18. So when we talk about video game addiction and what that means today, we're going to be talking a lot about people in their teen years who seem to most be at risk for what some professionals are anyway saying is addictive gaming processes. Previous large-scale studies, so by that we mean lots of people were tested. Previous large-scale studies suggest that internet gaming addiction, otherwise using the acronym IGD moving forward today, among minors under the age of 18 has become an important public concern in many different countries: Asia, Australia, Europe, and the US. Minors, so again, under the age of 18, are known to be particularly vulnerable to becoming involved in internet use that can be problematic, because some researchers say this is a time when the brain is still developing, especially our impulse control centers, and our ability to use our cognitive, reflective capacity and our executive control over those impulses is still developing. Finally, one study compared online and offline gamers and indicated that online gamers were more likely to score higher on overuse interpersonal conflict, and social isolation, those who are engaging in problematic use of the internet. So I want you to look at slide number 3 for a moment. This is a table that summarizes data that appeared in a review article in 2017 by Himlajalov and Vezhmelka. Okay, and Mihajlov and Vezhmelka, they reviewed all the data to date at that point on internet addiction, and they give us a summary table of worldwide prevalence of internet addiction by age group and by country. And you can see they break it down into adult, college, and adolescents, right? So adolescents under the age of 18, college, typically traditional college age students between the ages of 18 and 22, and then adults, anything after that. You can see the prevalence rates. You can compare across the US, Greece, Italy, Norway, the UK, India, Qatar, South Korea, China, Taiwan, and Croatia. And you can see where the rates are the highest. In the US, we see college populations get as high as 25%, according to some studies, adolescents as high as 15%. As high as 25% in college populations, and in Greece amongst adolescents as high as 15%. I had skipped down and not realized I was looking at Greece. You can see Italy's rates are relatively low compared to the US and Greece. Norway, very low in the general population, 1%. The UK, college rates much higher, 18%. India, college rates again are the highest, 17%, right? If you keep scrolling, you see South Korea, which has, I'm going to talk about South Korea later in this lecture, because South Korea actually has some controversial policies related to internet addiction in their young populations. You can see their rates are relatively high as 20%. Some studies indicate in college populations. China, as high as almost 14% in adolescents. Taiwan, up to about 18%. So you can see the age group that seems to be the highest is college student ages and adolescents, and the highest in certain countries like the US and South Korea and Taiwan and the UK and India compared to some other places, right? Like Norway and Croatia. So just to give you an idea. Now, I want to say before I end this video and go on to our next set of slides, be careful though, because internet addiction implies that this is a diagnosable disorder. And the term is misleading because, as you will see further on in class today, it is not an acceptable diagnosis in the DSM-5 just yet. I'll meet you on the next slide.